Ooh, good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, my friend. Good morning, everybody out there. Welcome to Grow Tuesday special. I believe my yesterday was so big that it feels like a Wednesday already. Kyle, you ever had a Monday like that, bud?
That's a heck of a Monday. The most Monday ever. Is that what you're saying?
I
Is that what
believe I had it, man. I believe I had it. And it's still great things. We are out here in what city are we in? Louisville, Kentucky, on our way to Connecticut. So we made a good little first day run. And welcome, guys. We have a dynamic show for you today with a lot of takeaways. And as always, we're going to start out with our foundational bold law. This week, it is your network is your net worth. Going to dive into that a little bit more today. And your DTD2 system is I and Q. Everybody with the last name that begins with an I or a Q. You're going to give them a call today. Reach out, and man, oh man, this is the easiest time in the world to make lead gen calls. So get excited about it and let them hear from you before the turn of the year. Make it happen during this holiday season. I promise it makes a big impact. Coach Kyle, what are we doing today, man? It's a Tuesday, so I have no idea what could be on the agenda.
Yeah, Marcus, we've been following a schedule, right, guys? If it's not on your schedule, it doesn't exist. Tuesdays, we've been talking about this little ditty here, this banger, this John C. Maxwell, the 16 undeniable laws of communication. And Marcus, my goodness, he did not fail to make it just spectacular chapter, this one, man. This was speaking my love language the entire time. This one, he talks about the law of preparation.
Mhm.
So, guys, if you have been following along with us each week, we've been talking about a different chapter. And we know that we don't make shoes. We don't build and sell birdhouses. We don't bake cakes. At least I don't think we do. We're real estate agents, and our job is to be advisors. Our job is essentially communication. And so we really picked this book so we can start working on the skill set of communication. And man, one of the biggest ones I think so far is this law of preparation, Marcus. How do you hear this, man? How does this show up for you?
He breaks down some things pretty intensely, and yet I teach this in the room because I lived it and still do live it from time to time. We'll get there in just a minute. He has a great concept of 2 versus 20
Mhm.
momentarily, though. What I love, though, he starts this whole process and he says, you cannot deliver what you have not developed. And when you really think about that, what are you developing behind the scenes? After a normal day, not even one of those long days, the Mondays, Mondays. After a normal day at work, what are you reading when you get home? What are you listening to in the car? What kind of health are you developing for yourself? What kind of eating habits? AKA, what are you developing behind the scenes that at some point you'll be able to deliver on the most simple scale? How often are you developing your skill set around listing or buyer presentations? And are you delivering those, or are you developing in front of the customer? Or are you practicing in front of the customer, as Gary would say? Another way to say this, man, he puts it in the book, Kyle. I'm gonna steal it from you before you can use it. Are you winging it or are you working it, Kyle? Mm, mm.
Oh, you know, like when you hear a good song on the radio and it's so good, you make the stank face. Like I was reading this and I read that line and I was like, oh man, dude, agents, guys, real estate agents, not real estate professionals, real estate agents have majored in the art of winging it.
Hmm. Yeah, I would say to the point of kind of being able to brag about it, like, oh, I can wing it and be fine.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, it goes back to grade school. It really does, because there was at some point, some of us walked into the classroom and there's a test today. There's a quiz. What was that? Right. So we have to cram a lot of information into our heads very fast. And you may have done that the night before, the morning of, whatever it may be. And then all of a sudden you got a decent grade or even a good grade, and your brain developed a pattern and said, wait a minute, we don't have to take so much time to develop this skill set of knowledge and this whole thing. Maybe we can just wing it. And the more you're able to wing it and still get the outcome that you're looking for, the more it stays here. If you wing it, success is improbable. Whereas if you work for it, success is inevitable. We all know the classic line: amateurs practice until they get it right, and professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. Kyle, what else do you have for this one, buddy? Because this is all day on this.
Man, I mean, you're right, dude. And for being transparent, which we always are on this show, we're like glass, baby. You can see right through us. This has shown up for me personally as literally a lifelong challenge.
Mm.
I have a fairly high natural ceiling of achievement, right? Like, just I can do things pretty well just from spending a little bit of time, if any. Um, and when I stepped into the coaching world and the speaking world and the bold world, I realized very fast that winging it was going to get me absolutely nowhere. And it was a big challenge, and it still is. I have to convince myself, like, hear me, guys. I am not someone that just magically does all the things that he's supposed to do without any effort. Like, I have to convince myself to put in prep work for meetings, for appointments, for coaching calls, for speaking gigs. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and it's a challenge for me, Marcus, because I have, like you described, a history or data points in the past of winging it and being mediocre and being semi-successful. But this quote that I've heard has really lived rent-free in my head, and it's, your mediocre success is holding you back from your true greatness.
And I think, man, if people hear that quote, I think a great example is his 2 hours versus 20.
Yeah.
Once you break that down for him, the 2 hours versus 20 and what that's done for Maxwell.
Yeah, man. Very similar story, and I resonate with it at a high level, man. Maxwell, when he first started preaching, he became a pastor, and he was a pastor of a very small church. And he was this young guy, right? And he's energetic and he's happy. So because it's a small town and they're having this new energy, a new life come, people were very receptive. Like, he found that no matter what he really did up there, people were like, pretty good, buddy. Like, this is good. And so he challenged himself one day, and he only prepared 2 hours. Now, in the past, he was taking it very seriously. He was preparing 20 hours for every time he talked, but this time he ran out of time, and he only could manage 2 hours. And he delivered the message. And guess what he found, Marcus? He found that it was about the exact same result of reception. Now, some of us hear that and we go, oh, dang. All right. Hey, what was I doing preparing 20 hours when I can just do 2 hours? I can go play golf with this extra time, because Maxwell likes golf. And there was a golf course 3 minutes away from his house, buddy. But he made the decision. He said, you know what? And if we're being real here, which we are, I bet this wasn't an easy decision, Marcus.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Like, in the book, he's like, I just kind of came to, I bet this was a challenge. Like, he came to the decision, like, I don't want to be an amateur. I don't want to wing it. I'm going to, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to spend the 20 hours. And millions of dollars later, I would think that he made the right decision.
I think it's one of those moments where people can decide, okay, am I going to put the time in now and do things that others aren't willing to do, right? So that at some point my skill set is so insanely high comparatively that so is my paycheck, so is my life, so is the way that I approach life, right? And yet it takes all that time in the past. I run into so many newer agents who are looking for that paycheck and that life of a realtor, and the income and the whole thing, and yet they haven't developed that foundational part of their business yet. That the MREAs and the true rainmakers out there, they took a breath, they took a beat, right, and they put it in. Preparing 20 hours is daunting, man. For somebody who likes to move nonstop, being able to sit down, read, study, like really framework out everything, that's quite the journey and quite the quite the task to take on when all these other opportunities are out there for movement and you think they're successful. So what's being described or what's disguising themselves as foundational work or boring work that's actually the success? And I think that's in the preparation for most of us.
It's, man, we try to get away from it. And when I say we, guys, I'm talking about myself, I try to get away from it as much as possible. And the foundational universal truth of this life that I keep getting smacked in the face with on a daily basis is it really is time on task over time.
It is.
It is, dude.
Yeah.
Like, how much time are you putting in? We can't. I wish I have been fighting, Marcus, for 10 years in this business, trying to figure out a magic pill or a magic wand to just wave it and be a millionaire, billionaire like Gary Keller. I haven't found it.
Yeah. Well, the unfortunate thing is we hear stories about those overnight millionaires or the first year in real estate and they made $1 bajillion, right? We hear about those because man, that's awesome. Yet maybe we shouldn't put those so much on blast, right? Because those are the one-offs. Those are the stars were in alignment, and that's okay. However, for the other 99% of people who are successful at that range and above, it is coming down to preparation and the foundation. So it's one of those that as speakers, I love this quote in here in the book. It says, "Any message I want to deliver must speak to me before it can speak to others. If it hasn't helped me, it cannot help others." And I think that goes for speakers, coaches, leaders of any regard, right? Hey, if it doesn't speak to you, how are you going to orate that to someone else and actually get them going? And we've got four different questions here, I should say. And when we go through this, I'll kind of put the questions to you, man. As far as see, what do you see? Do you see possibilities or do you see limitations?
Yeah, man. I
And
mean, that's right on. It's like before I'm going in, I'm asking myself, like, what do I want the people to see? What is the goal, right? What is
yeah,
the outcome that I desire? We talk
right.
about when we talk about profit, right? When we talk about deals, do we talk about it on the appointment level? Like, what do I want people to see? I want them to see the possibilities. Like, what could we do together? What does working with Marcus, what does working with Kyle mean? What does having him speak to us mean? It means possibilities.
And it goes back to preparation because you can't inspire people to see possibilities from you and coming from you if you're not prepared enough to deliver it at the high level.
Mm.
Number two, what do I want people to know? This is one of the best questions that we always get asked in the bold room, especially. It's like, what do I say when I call? Well, what do you want your audience to know? Like, what would you like your consumer to know, whether it's about the market, about you, or a little bit about both? What's some value that you can bring? Like, and each week, it kind of gets a little fun because we've got the DTD2 system.
Mhm.
And Kyle, I think maybe we should consider adding a little something like, hey, here's a reason to call this week. Hey, here's a
Yeah.
reason to call today. And that way you've got some opportunities in your head. What do you want your people to know?
Marcus, with the what do I want people to know when we talk about value, right? The value that we can have together, the value that you have, or here's the thing, the value that they have. I
Mm-hmm.
recently went on a commercial appointment with a um, far off sphere, not someone close, right? Like they were interviewing multiple agents. And I sat down and we're going through it and I asked them questions. The first thing they wanted to know, right? Their high D is, hey, what's it worth? Blah, blah, blah. We've heard a bunch of different things. I'm like, let me stop you here. We can get to that. My question is this: do you even need to sell it?
Mm.
And they were like, well, no. I said, because this is what I see for this property. It's going to continue to increase over time. This is a great area and it's a great investment. In fact, if you didn't need to sell it, have you considered renting it? And they just stopped and they were like, you're the first person who told us not to sell. And I said, man, my goal is not to serve me, it's to serve you. And I would hate to see you come off of this beautiful investment if you don't have to. Do you think that I just got a referral partner for life there?
For life. Absolutely. Yeah. I love that, man. And that is truly looking out for what's best for the client at all times. Well done, sir. Well done. Bravo. Bravo. Yes.
It
Number
leads to the next one, right? Like, what do we want them to feel? We want them to feel empowered. Like, I want them to leave a meeting with Marcus and be like, dude, ready, baby. Let's go. Like, look at all these possibilities. Look at this value. I'm feeling empowered, ready to take on the world.
This could go with business. This could go with personal. This could go in pretty much any conversation, any relationship that you've got. What do I want people to feel? If I start with the end goal in mind, if I say, you know what, I want this person to leave with this kind of feeling, then I know how to carry myself in that appointment. I know what questions to ask,
Mhm.
right? Maybe it's a time where you've been a little bit of a receiver as far as that friendship or that relationship. Maybe it's time to give a little bit, right? Maybe they need to get their cup filled up. So really judge that situation before it even starts. What do I want people to feel as this wraps up? And then finally, our last one. What do I want people to do? What is my call to action? What is the motivational thing for sure? And yet, what are the tactics that people are walking away with? It's great to be quoted as a motivational speaker sometimes. And yet, man, that's not our goal whatsoever. Our goal are to be coaches. Our goal is to come in and help you elevate your life in every regard. So, what do we want people to do? Well, we want them to take in what we're talking about here, apply it to their lives, and then multiply their successes, multiply any kind of momentum that they've got in their world. And I think that's how he breaks it down here. What do you got, Bob?
No, dude, I love that. I mean, this all goes down to preparation. Like, these questions may seem small or obvious. The thing is, are you even asking them?
Mm.
Are you prepared to know where you desire the conversation to go, the appointment to go, and not just take the listing? Thanks, bro. We got that. Like, what about it? Do you want them to feel valued? Do you want them to feel empowered? Do you want them to take action and list with you today? Like, we have to slow down and ask ourselves these questions so we can begin to formulate the process of that appointment. And there's this awesome quote in here, man, and it's been riffed by a bunch of different people, but it's from an old Michigan football coach, and he was one of the best Michigan football coaches of all time, one of the highest winning ones. And he said, "Preparation, that is the big thing. It's all right to talk about this will to win." We hear that all the time, right? What's the will to win? We got to have the will. It's great to talk about the will to win, but I tell you, it is not of much worth unless you have the will to prepare, whether for the game you are to play or for the business you are about to enter. Eat.
Well, that's when you get those players with ice in their veins. You've
Yeah.
heard that saying. And Kobe Bryant, ice in his veins. Steph Curry, ice in his veins. Michael Jordan. I could go on and on and on. Those players have done so many hours of preparation. They know exactly what spot on the floor that they've hit the most shots in their entire career. They know what the defender has a tendency to do in certain situations when you're in your left or your right, whatever it may be. How how much are you picking up as far as the nuances in your meetings? Are you able to watch body language? Are you able to interpret that stuff at a much higher speed? There's a saying that a lot of pro athletes have when they go from college to the pros, and they say, "Man, the game is so fast."
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the game slows down because they've put the reps in. At some point, your listings and your buyer presentations and your negotiations, they will all slow down because of the prep work. And that moment is when you really get to be present fully and bring the best version of yourself.
Yeah, man. We simply put play to the level of our preparation.
Hmm.
It's that easy, man. So here's the thing, Marcus. You love to talk about watching the game film,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
Guys,
yeah.
again, for the bajillionth time, we talk about it because it matters, and we're going to keep talking about it because it matters. Are you watching the game film? Are you asking yourself evaluation questions after? By the way, the post questions is part of preparation for the next event. Like,
Talk to
don't
them.
on it, right? Like that is part of the next challenge, the next game, the next appointment, the next talk, the next phone call. And so some of these questions in here, I desire you guys to ask of yourself. Number one, am I comfortable and confident? Marcus, you being a big daddy, like how does confidence play a part in your success?
Yeah, every bit of it. People want to follow leaders, and leaders are confident in what they bring and what they do. Hear my heart. There's a difference between confidence and overconfidence.
Sure.
Okay. So I think the biggest opportunity that you've got is to carry yourself very well and ask great questions. Because overly confident people don't ask a lot of questions. They just tell, tell, tell. They sell, sell, sell. Confident people, who they are, the true alphas of the workforce, they're confident in their ability, and yet they engage the customer and they make sure it's always about them while holding their hand and leading them towards what's good for them. So confidence exudes in all things, man. One way to think about this is another question: is my audience leaning in? Right? Are they leaning in? Do they feel it? Are they engaged in this conversation? What's going on? And then another one is, when am I connecting?
Mm.
Kyle, we saw this in the Ken Posek video that he so graciously gave us for Bold. And he went back on every one of his videos, guys, and he's done thousands at this point. But he goes back on every one of his videos and he looks at the analytics. And those analytics literally show spikes in viewership when people are really paying attention versus when it goes down. That's the level he went to go where he's, or to be where he is right now. And we look back at Maxwell, the 2 hours versus 20. Well, 2 hours, would he be the best-selling author and multimillionaire that we know? I'm not sure.
I don't know, man. I would probably say not, and yet we'll never know.
Good thing we don't have to.
Good thing we don't have to, right? Hey, what do they say in sports, right? Take it out the hands of the judges.
Yeah.
Take it out the hands, man. So like ask yourself these questions. Is the audience leaning in? Are they connected? When are they not connected?
Mm-hmm.
Are they staying engaged? Marcus, how can we on an appointment create and keep engagement?
Oh, well, again, it's two very powerful yet simple things. One, it's all about them, just like your story, just like your example of the commercial, like the commercial property. It was about them, not your paycheck. And I think they had a lot of agents that were talking about their paycheck versus, the bigger goal. And then number two is asking wonderful questions. Guys, it doesn't get more simple than that. And this goes to your appointments. It also goes to your best relationships. I was talking to a client yesterday, and I said, hey, he was talking about him and his wife and the dynamic they've got. And he said, man, I just wish, I can tell her, like, this is our goal and this is why. And I'm like, no, you're telling. I said, I tell you what, try this. Write down what you want to say, and then write 3 questions underneath it that would lead her to say that answer. And I said, just let her be the author of it. And he ran that play, and it worked out really, really well. So, and it's not this, I'm gonna voodoo magic you. It's letting the person author their own story and their own answer, and when they author it, they own it.
That's right, man. Guys, wrapping this thing up, man, preparation is so important. And I think that the 5 jobs or roles of a real estate agent, right, is lead generate, lead follow up, right, go on appointments, negotiate contracts, and number 5 is practice and role play. More often than not, if we're being honest, agents do not practice and role play. The crazy thing is, it literally makes all the other steps easier.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Literally.
Every bit of it. Yeah. I love the fact too that I can always negotiate against an agent who has never practiced negotiation. It makes me so happy. It's a layup every single time, and I'm always the hero to the clients. So, how much do you choose to prepare prepared this week, guys. As we go through this John Maxwell book, we are gifted with this one. So big shout out to John Maxwell. Hey, maybe we can have him on one day. We'll see what he says. Yeah.
Sky's the limit, guys. I'll leave you, Marcus, with this last banger here by one of my favorite authors, Malcolm Gladwell. He says, practice isn't the thing you do once you're good. It's the thing you do that makes you good. Let's go.
Gonna be great today, people. We'll see you tomorrow.